provide, and that's a service that we provide for free. So we encourage any consumer, business, or organization who might have a seminar, an event, a training, to give us a call. We'd be happy to come out and speak with you.
Fantastic. He's Jason Moon with the Office of Financial and Insurance Regulation here in the state of Michigan, launching a very important, helpful page online at michigan.gov, the Health Insurance Consumer Assistance Program, and it's michigan.gov/HICAP. 877-999-6442, the hotline number. Jason Moon, thank you for being with us. We appreciate the time today. You're listening to Clearly Community.
Clearly Community is a public affairs program of Clear Channel Media and Entertainment.
Clearly Community is brought to you by Huntington Bank. Welcome to Asterisk-Free Checking. No gotcha fees, no asterisks. Only from Huntington.
Listen again next week at this time for another segment of Clearly Community right here on your favorite Clear Channel Media and Entertainment radio station.
The big sale is on at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC's Used Car Super Center. Benton is overstocked with the largest selection of trade-ins from our model year and clearance event big sale. Shop the largest selection of GM certified vehicles with 1.9% financing. Plus every pre-owned vehicle sold, Benton will give you a free $300 gas card. Shop the largest selection of 2010, 2012 new body style Chevy Equinox starting as low as $14,900. Shop the 2010 through 2012 Chevy Malibu starting at $13,900. Nobody in Michigan sells more pre-owned vehicles than Benton's Used Car Super Center. We sell more, you save more. Right now is the time to get rock-bottom prices. Plus, Benton has authorized their staff to pay even more for your trade during the holiday weekend. Bring your title and get ready to trade up and save thousands. Shop our giant 20-acre motor mall only at the Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC Used Car Super Center, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. It's where Michigan shops. Benton.
Neon, day glow, flashing lights, special effects. Today's world puts our sense of sight on overload. Luckily, there are places we can go to refocus our senses. Our national wildlife refuges. It's a wonder how much you'll see once all the distractions fade away. You may see a lone eagle soaring past massive snow-capped mountains, or a great horned owl perched stoically on a branch nearby. You may see the furry face of a baby sea otter curiously poking its head out of the dark blue sea, or ancient rocks shaped by centuries of wind. When you see these things, you're seeing the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
Good morning, Muskegon, to all of you out there in radio, podcast, iHeartRadio, and computer land. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel Studios with my friend and engineer, the legendary Oscar Osbo, the man who put the O in radio.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we found out about that a little bit ago, and it just, Oscar, you did. It used to be radii, and now it's radio. So all because of Oscar.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And we appreciate you being here. And back with us again, one of our regulars, columnist, employer, probably despised employer by certain folks in the public sector who don't really like those private employers. And now author, Tracy Lorenz. Good morning, Tracy.
I put the rad in radio.
There we well,
so between us, he's the I, you're the O, I'm the rad.
Okay, you're rad.
We got it all spelled out.
I'm looking for any of those in the spelling of your name, and it's not there, but that's okay. Hey, we've in addition to this phenomenally exciting morning crew here, we do have coming in the 9 o'clock hour a return of another special guest that we've had before, but as we've got the election in November coming up, we'll have Scott Hagerstrom, who is the State Director of Americans for Prosperity, AFP, and we're going to take another look at the bridge. Of course, you can't turn on television without seeing multiple ads pro and mostly against the bridge. We're going to talk about that constitutional amendment, very important constitutional amendment, and some of the other amendments that we're going to be voting on coming up in November. And I always like to say, because it's true and it makes me feel good, that we are Muskegon's #1 rated political talk radio show, but we just got some Arbitron ratings out, and we have in the neighborhood of about 1,000 or so, it's a little more than 1,000 households in Muskegon County that are listening to the show just purely on a listening basis, not including downloading or going to iHeartRadio or any of the others. And I think the average household in
1,000
in our
Wow.
and we are #1 in our time slot. But I think what's important is that's about I think something in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 people per household in Muskegon County. So that puts us at, let's just say, 3,500 people are actually listening, or at least being exposed to it.
Exposed.
And we will have an inoculation.
Yes.
You can be sure that the certain
Walgreens, you can sign up for your shots.
That's right. So, well, certain parts of the media would prefer to inoculate the rest. Certainly, the county commissioners, I'm sure, as a group, would like to inoculate Muskegon residents and certainly voters from listening to us. But we had in this most recent, very, very important here. Poor Oscar's dying. We're going to have to bring in EMTs.
I was exposed.
You were. He did not get inoculated in time. But we had in this most important August primary election, we had about 21,000 voters. So we have about 10 to 15%. Certainly, people who listen to this show are voters, and we do have power, and
they're good looking.
And we are, well, we're good looking for radio, I suppose, and we thank you, all you listeners. And the word is getting out. And really, we are the only radio show that not only has political interaction where you can where we try to ask some tough questions, but you can call in, and we still have the call in number, which is 231-830-3109.
And I heard on TV we're at 5 now. We have 5 viewers, so
Wow, on the TV show.
At least, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
They probably invite all their friends, so like 20
That's
friends.
right.
So it's
Tell their
up to
friends.
100.
Maybe we get 20.
Well, I do think I'm pretty pleased again because this is AM radio. This is morning, Sunday morning, and I do know that we get some fairly nice hits from the blog that we have, and of course the iHeartRadio. And I think what's really important too is we have 2 blogs, and for those of you, I'm sure most of you are aware what a blog is, but it's very much like a website. It's just a little easier to use, and we have the EyeOnMuskegon.com blog, which for the most part I'm just leaving to videos of the show and a few other things, maybe a little show prep, but mostly I'm depending on MuskegonPundit.com for show prep and other articles that I've seen on the internet that are of interest to me, and I try to focus as much as I can on the on Muskegon County and Michigan items. But we are trying to bring to the listeners and to the voters, and certainly to business owners in Muskegon County, information that they might not otherwise have available to them. So that's our quest. We know that, unfortunately, now that the Muskegon Chronicle is delivery down to 3 days a week and certainly cut back, I'm sitting with someone who used to provide, I think, the best column in the newspaper. And
Pariah.
But you are still, you are a pariah. I should have put that in there. You are an employer, a columnist, author, and pariah. And Tracy Lorenz. There we go. Anyway, so... Hey, on this day in history, interestingly, not a whole lot of really compelling things happened on this day, but 3 that I thought were interesting. One, in 1951, the first transcontinental telecast was received on the West Coast, a show called Crusade for Freedom. So you can imagine that show would not be on television in the United States
today. It had
today.
less than 1,000 listeners.
Well, it probably did. Well, but the term crusade is so offensive now to so many Americans, and freedom equally so to a certain group.
Muskegon Catholic Crusader.
And there we go. And that at some point I see that there are leaders in the Arab Spring nation of Egypt who want the United Nations to pass a worldwide law banning negative comments about the Prophet Muhammad. So I'm sure if they are able to get that power, that they will go, they'll dip their hands into Muskegon County and go after those nasty, evil Muskegon Catholic Central Crusaders too. So who knows? Who knows what'll happen? But anyway, a couple of other things happened interestingly today. Well, the reason I bring up the 1951 transcontinental telecast was that wasn't done by Barry Obama. He didn't make that happen. CBS Radio made it happen.
Al Gore.
And a lot of hard people made it happen. And Al Gore was not involved at all, although who knows, he might very well have taken credit for it at some point. But a couple of other things. I find this is a flash in the pan, something that was ubiquitous, which is a term that every time somebody says it on ABC News or NBC News or one of the major news channels, for the next week, ubiquitous is the ubiquitous word. But ubiquitous means something that's said often, seen often. In 1930, flash bulbs for cameras were first patented. And, of course, now they're gone. We don't see that, there's a whole generation that...
I still use them.
Well, I'm sure that certain people, geezers like Tracy Moran.
I used the flash cubes. The four little balls.
I remember I had those.
Oh, those are great.
Camera. Yeah,
those are great. And but the concept of flash bulb is come and gone. 1930 to probably about 1999.
See, you don't even need the Polaroid camera anymore. The instant camera.
Yeah, because Polaroids were ubiquitous at one point.
Yeah. The internet.
But this gets me. Given the media coverage of what's happened, these horrors that have happened and are continuing to happen at this moment throughout the Arab world, the Arab Spring, and into Europe also. In 1779, one of my all-time heroes as a kid, the American warship Bonhomme Richard, commanded by John Paul Jones, defeated Her Majesty's ship Serapis. And, of course, the famous phrase, "I have not yet begun to fight." Something that was quite stirring. It was bravery. It was America. It was victory. Words that you really don't expect to hear under the current administration of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and the like. There were times when America was both respected and feared, and these... sadly, the times have changed to the point where we are neither respected nor feared by apparently anybody. And Tracy's got all of my show prep in front of him, thinking that it's permanent gift. That's my show brain.
I'm going to shuffle the pages up now.
Hey, a couple of other things. You mentioned that this morning, the Michigan Sing-Along, which if you haven't seen it, you may never be able to. It was put together by the state of Michigan tourism department or whatever. Jump on it.
It was a lot of fun. I was in the Muskegon version and the Grand Haven version. I think they had to go to 50 cities in 5 days and film this and choreograph it, put it all together and stick it on the air.
Yeah.
And what was the song that they used?
All I remember was our part. We had to go, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, we'll call it the Whoa Whoa song.
Other than that,
anyway, it was a really cool video, and it was intended to be played nationally. I imagine it went on some TVs, but certainly it was on YouTube and all. And it was really, really great. Muskegon looked, I thought, fantastic. Whoever was involved in setting it up, it was out at the roundabout downtown.
By the front, though, there.
Yeah.
I did see bits of it, but I'd never seen the full video.
Well, it was catchy top to bottom.
It was.
And apparently this morning now the entire YouTube has been pulled because there's a question about rights to the music. Looks like the folks who did put it together, I'm sure they did their best to be comply to whatever the laws were.
That's what they do. But they also did the one in Grand Rapids to American Pie, the world record holder.
Right.
Fabulous work.
Well, anyway, these things are really cool, and unfortunately, the legal system is such. Although maybe this is really, if somebody does own the rights to the music, you've got to compensate them. But it is off the air this morning.
But usually they do compensate on YouTube. It usually always goes to Amazon.com as far as where you can buy the song or all that good stuff. It's very strange. It was like a bunch of songs because I do that reminiscing thing. And there's a bunch of songs that I'll put up there, and the only time they yanked anything I did was a Garth Brooks tune. So it has to do with something with the legal rights of artist or
of that particular
of that company or whatever.
Yeah,
but
and
really
and again, it's set up to make sense, but
it's set up to make sense.
Well, no, I do. If you're going to write a song, you ought to be compensated for it. And
right.
So anyway, I just thought if it does come back again. I think just Google Michigan Sing Along, and that'll get you right to it. Hey, a couple of other things we just had in Muskegon County. And, one of the things I always try to tell people is that what happens here, and this is why you can listen, I hope you can listen to this show any place in the country, because it's happening where you live. Although we're going to talk about the comparison between Muskegon County and Ottawa County. It's happening much less so there. But the Muskegon Board of Public Works, which is headed, the chairman of that is County Commissioner Marv Engel, who is up for re-election come November. They just passed a 6% overall increase in the cost of the wastewater, the wholesale rate. My understanding of it is that it had to be done. Probably we need to get even more more increases in order to pay what's necessary to pay the bonds that are out there. My problem with this is that this county board, just like so many governmental organizations throughout our country, almost are entirely reactive. Here we are. How long has Sappy been gone? How long have we known that Sappy is going to be leaving? And we have absolutely nothing. We didn't increase rates in advance with the idea that we could, put a little slush fund away to help us through the tough times. We are waiting till the last day, till Simon Legree is outside the front door. You have to Google Simon Legree if you're young, but he's out. He's at the front door demanding payment, and we have a situation coming up where the largest taxpayer in the county, which is the Cobb plant, Consumers Power. Consumers Energy, I guess now, is going to be closing soon. And there's nobody. I know that Mayor Warmington, Steve Warmington, really was at least talking a lot about it, saying we've got to make changes here because we're going to lose all this tax revenue. In all of the times that I've been to the county commission meetings, I've never heard a word about what are we going to do.
I never heard they were leaving.
Oh, yeah, they're leaving. This is a result of the EPA waving the magic EPA wand and telling dozens, at least dozens, of coal-fired plants that you're not going to, under the new rules, which were never voted for, by the way, by anybody elected, the new rules promulgated by the Obama administration, that they have to shut down. And I'll read something from this. This is a blogger, but this is from somebody who is inside in the electrical generation world. The headline is electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket, which is kind of a familiar phrase because candidate Obama, Senator Obama, said this very publicly numerous times, but it's on YouTube even, where he said, under my plan, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. And, of course, the biggest users of electricity, other than the rest of us here who use it at home, are businesses, employers. And if, in fact, you like employers, you really don't want the cost of employers to go up. But listen to this. I'll just read a couple paragraphs. Said, look, folks, I'm in this field. I've been in for more than 30 years. Losing 36,000 megawatts of the most coal-efficient generation capacity in the United States is a disaster. You have no idea how bad the increases are going to be. They will be disastrous to the individual energy consumers and apocalyptic to large users, those who create jobs. I shudder to think of what this is going to do to the grid reliability as well. This is an important thing that's not really been talked about. A lot of those coal plants help support the grid during disruptions. They regularly provide both energy and megavolt ampere reactors, doesn't matter, but that keep the grid from collapsing when large loads are added or lost. In other words, if you shrink down the number to a whole bunch of more efficient the large ones. When one of those goes down, you don't have all of the backup power. But he goes on, losing those stabilizers will make it very hard to hold the grid. I pity the load dispatchers. Trust me, people, this is a very big, very bad thing that is happening as a direct result of Barack Obama's war on coal. So
this is going to happen, what, 12?
Actually, I believe it's going to happen at the end of 2013, so a little more than about a year and a half. And this is a done deal. Unless, it may very well be that if Governor Romney gets elected president, then he may pull that back. But we got a few other things to talk about, as we always do, and we will be back after this break.
Have you ever dreamed of working for yourself, owning your own business, and having the freedom to work when you want? We're the marketing arm of a $3 billion energy company, immediately looking to find a few entrepreneurs or business owners who can recognize a great opportunity. Rarely are there offerings like this to make a minimal investment with the ability to create significant earnings and wealth. Learn more about becoming a part of our team at ejobswestmichigan.com. We provide the training and support to help you succeed. What are you waiting for? ejobswestmichigan.com.
Bow hunters. Long-range archery. The Lakeshore's largest archery dealer wants you to be ready to shoot a big buck opening day. Take your bow in and have the professional staff tune and set up your bow to fit you correctly. Long-range archery at 2530 Van Omen in Holland and M120 just south of Twin Lake.
I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what to do about it.
I tried counting calories, I took pills, eating, and then more eating.
I really wanted to stop, but nothing could make me stop.
At one point, it was so bad that I just felt like giving up.
I felt so alone.
Like nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. People who want to stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
Overeaters Anonymous, help me get my life back.
Now I eat in a way that's healthy and good for me.
I never realized what I was missing out on.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
For injured veterans like Felipe Adams, there are veterans like Armando de la Rosa ready to help.
Our training is to better the veteran.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, changing lives, building futures. Visit PVA.org.
I see this ad on TV. I call, they told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt isn't easy. Talk to your creditors directly or visit debtadvice.org. Real solutions for real people. This has been a public service message.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
Dadgum government. Well, we have, government wouldn't be dadgum if it didn't take our money and then really not deliver on what it had promised. And here we have a situation going on here in Muskegon County where there's a lot of talk about blue is the new oil, or no, water is the new oil, and this blue economy that somehow is going to create jobs and ultimately tax revenues that will pay off this massive debt that we have here in Muskegon County. And I keep talking about Muskegon County's debt, and I would really refer you to either MuskegonPundit.com or EyeOnMuskegon.com, because one of the county commissioners, I've talked about this before, but this is too critically important. One of the gentlemen who was running as a candidate for county commissioner, an extraordinarily bright young guy, Mark Molitor, who's running against current sitting county commissioner Ben Cross in the, I guess you call it West Muskegon District. But he put together a comparison of Muskegon County versus Ottawa County. Ottawa County is about 50% larger in terms of, and we've talked about this before, but it's about 50% larger in population. It's quite a bit larger in overall size. Muskegon County has about 1,400 full-time employees. Ottawa County has about 900. But here's where it gets really, really nasty. On debt per resident, take the debt divided by the residents. Ottawa County has $87 worth of debt per resident in the county.
Wow.
Muskegon.
I can pay that off.
Muskegon County has $905 of debt per resident. Now, remember, we're smaller than they are, significantly smaller, and we have almost over 10 times the debt per resident. This is, in other words, these are bonds that have been issued. Here are the numbers. Well, these are the bonds that have been issued. Here are the numbers for their pension, and this is something I've been railing about for the entire time that this show's been on the air. This is the promised money that we are underfunded in our pension for county employees. These are pension and health benefits. Ottawa County, much larger county, although with fewer employees, they're unfunded, underfunded. In other words, if you write a check, all this brings them up to where they're supposed to be, is $39 million, which is still a lot of money, and they should not be unfunded, as we know that Oakland County is fully funded. In Muskegon County, it's not $39 million. It's $110 million underfunded. And it's getting worse, by the way. Almost every single year, the numbers are worse. Matter of fact, a month ago, the newspaper, the Chronicle, reported after my complaint about the mess that we were in. One of the department heads in the county said, shortly this week we expect the new numbers on the pension funding, and we expect them to be quite good. Well, it's now been almost 2 months, and we haven't heard from them. So
they're probably not quite good.
They're probably not as good as one would hope.
No.
And just to make it a little more clear, the tax rate in Ottawa County is 3.6 mils. That's in and of itself doesn't mean much, but as a comparison, in Muskegon County, 5.6. So it's more than 50% higher if you're a business owner to in terms of county taxes than it is in Ottawa County. And not surprisingly, Ottawa County has about a 6.4% unemployment rate because employers are moving there, and we have about an 8.5% employment rate because employers are moving away from here. And the reason I mention this is there was a meeting, a closed meeting, just this a couple days ago, and I'll read it to you. Moved by Derazinski, supported by Longmire, to proceed to closed session for the purpose of collective bargaining negotiations. And that meeting was all of about 10 minutes. Secret meeting, nobody knows about it. But we did just less than a year ago sign all 10 unions have signed 3-year contracts, which were extraordinarily, you couldn't get these kind of jobs with benefits in the private sector. Very, very plush contracts. Now, only the unions, by the way, are asking to reopen these negotiations. You can expect that they're going to slide in probably in their next meeting. There will be no county meeting, by the way, on Tuesday. There will be a meeting next Thursday. They'll probably slide in something very fuzzy that the Chronicle will be complicit in missing and will or report as, this is really great, which of course it's really great for the people getting the money. But when you have this kind of comparison that Commissioner candidate Mark Molitor put together, when we have 10 times the debt per resident. And by the way, that's $110 million. The jail is expected, this new jail that is definitely going to be one way or the other, we're going to get a new jail. Some of the cost estimates are up to $45 million. So we could increase our total indebtedness, which is already 10 times what it is in Ottawa County. We could increase that by almost 50% just with a snap of the fingers. And on that happy note, we will take a break and with bated breath await Scott Hagerstrom from Americans for Prosperity to talk about a big bridge that everybody says is free. Some people say it's not.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
News Talk 1090 is the place you come to for talk along the lakeshore. But when you want talk of a different kind, like sports talk, your new home for ESPN is 96.1. ESPN 96.1 and News Talk 1090. Now you're talking.
Need a boost to be your best? Drink SK Energy Shots. None of the bad stuff in it, so you never crash or get the jitters. Just a smooth rush of energy that tastes great. New SK Energy Shots. Powerful, pure energy. Available at Rite Aid, GNC, CVS, and your local retailer.
Table for two? This month, people everywhere are coming together to join Team No Kid Hungry.
Would y'all like a booth?
To help end childhood hunger in America. You can too. All you have to do is dine out at one of thousands of participating restaurants. Together, we can make a difference right away for 1 in 5 kids who struggle with hunger. So dine out for No Kid Hungry this September.
Party of 5?
Learn how at nokidhungry.org.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Today's hit music didn't just happen. It evolved from the roots of pop. The Beatles to the Beach Boys to the Rascals. The Supremes to the Jackson 5 and Sly and the Family Stone. The Rolling Stones to the Kinks and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Rock, soul, folk, R&B. It all began with the roots of pop. Listen to the Roots of Pop from iHeartRadio and iHeartRadio.com.
It's your car. You take it to people you trust.
You want to rip out your linkage. That's just an estimate, little lady.
They're your children. You want to keep them safe.
Hey, kids, shut your traps!
It's your health. You want a doctor with experience.
Hey, Joan, I'm Skip, and I'll be your doctor today.
I'm fine. Thanks.
It's your finances. You want to go to the experts.
It's quick and easy. Cut your payments by 50.
Go to people with experience, real people you can trust.
We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt.
We can help.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Our certified counselors can help you eliminate your debt and teach you ways to stay out of debt. Speak with a counselor today at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Real solutions for real people. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
A message from Liam Neeson, Orlando Bloom, Lawrence Fishburne, Salma Hayek, Mia Farrow, and Téa Leoni.
They do not have to die, but they do. 24,000 children every day.
They die for reasons we can prevent.
Like not getting enough food or medicine or clean, safe water to drink.
24,000 children every day.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
They do not have to die, but they do.
They die because they are young and vulnerable.
They die because through no fault of their own, they are poor.
24,000 children.
24,000 children.
24,000 children every day? My name is Téa Leoni.
My name is Salma Hayek.
My name is Orlando Bloom.
My name is Mia Farrow.
My name is Lawrence Fishburne.
My name is Liam Neeson, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
I knew I was stuck at this kid's house for the night, but those guys snuck up on me to try and pull the hand in a bowl of warm water trick. Well, that was enough for me. I went downstairs to sleep in the basement, even though it was pitch black. I left my sleeping bag upstairs, and that was a mistake, because it was freezing. I think it was probably the longest night of my life. To read more about the sleepover, check out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw by Jeff Kinney. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library, and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. So I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. So I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. It didn't seem right, but they said they'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands of dollars, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything just to win your trust.
Sounded perfect. I did everything they told me to do.
They never paid my creditors. They didn't even contact them.
Turns out I'm even more in debt because the fees and the interest on my cards kept piling up.
Bad advice from so-called experts can make your financial situation worse.
And the bank turned me down for a mortgage. And that's when I realized my credit was shot.
I should have gone straight to my creditors to begin with.
There is a better way to get help. Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org. Debtadvice.org. Real solutions for real people. This has been a public service message.
1090 is the Talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum government. Uh-huh. Oh,
And we are back. The man who put the O in radio, Oscar Osbo. Tracy Lorenz, who's, you may not even, we were talking breakfast food here. Now we're moving on. And your host, Jim Riley. And we are waiting for Scott Hagerstrom from AFP, and hopefully he will call in. But until then, it's something else I wanted to talk about.
I think I'm 3 for 3. I think he's been here, called in every time I've been here.
Actually, I believe this is just his second time.
He's talking. No, he was here last time I was here. In person. Wasn't he?
No.
Different guy?
Different guy. This is AFP.
Sorry, Scott.
Well, there's, there are a lot of, the funny thing is, there are a lot of conservative think tanks, and I'm sure there's many liberal think tanks, but there are quite a few in the state of Michigan who provide, like, the Mackinac Center and the Thomas More Association or something. There's another one that does that provide tremendous amounts of investigative research. And it's sadly it's a non-event when the print media and most of the television radio media, they for some reason are not interested in picking up on this. Occasionally you'll see a Detroit News, and even more rarely you'll see the Detroit Free Press pick up on a Mackinac Center item. But unfortunately, the good stuff, we have to dig it out ourselves, and that's one of the things that helps keep our show going. So we do have quite a few folks who do either call in or come in person from the.
I really want to know about that bridge too.
Well, we're going to talk about the bridge in a second, and hopefully we'll be able to get with Scott. But one thing I want to talk about that has something similar to do with the bridge, and I sort of got a drifting, as is my wont, in the last half hour. But there's a big discussion. The county had put together a vote where they decided to form a port authority for Muskegon County. And I went to one of the meetings and sat there, and it was interesting that two folks who never show up at any of these meetings, they were representing various unions who would have been involved in hiring people. And there were, of course, the only person from the citizenry, or even really from business sitting in there was me, just videoing it, and I was able to ask a question because there was discussion about, well, what are we going to do with unions? And of course, the response was, well, we're not going to offend anybody in unions, and we'll certainly make it union friendly and all that kind of thing. But I asked a question, and shockingly, they answered it. I said, there's all this talk about converting the Cobb plant when it's closed down into a county-run port authority with using those ports and generally having a port authority over the entire Muskegon Lake. I said, at some point it's going to involve a significant amount of money. Where is the evidence that there is a need for additional port facilities? Because, of course, there is a port facility over at Sappy, which is privately owned. There's a very profitable port facility at the Mart Dock with multiple slips there. These people employ people. They pay taxes. They provide the service. When ships come into town, as we just learned from the Muskegon Chronicle and some of the local the television in Grand Rapids, it's an unbelievable event. So it's not like they're waiting outside in Lake Michigan for a chance to dock. And I said, what's the evidence that we need more port facilities, and in particular need one that would be run by the Einsteins on the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners? Well, I mean, they haven't got a history of successful running of even governmental operations. I mean, as we just saw with comparisons between Muskegon and Ottawa County, but they most certainly have no success in terms of running what would be considered a private operation. I mean, even take a look at the bus, the bus situation in Muskegon Transit. Take a look at
they ran it like it was their own business. They have some background and success that way, but they don't seem to do it that way.
Bingo! Yeah, there we go. So anyway, but the interesting thing was that I got a response. From the chairman of the Public Works Board who was involved in this, and he said, hey, there's going to be demand, and we have to be there to take care of the demand. And if we don't do it, nobody else will. And I thought, oh my gosh. Again, didn't answer the question of is there a defined need. It was just an assumption that there was a need. There was an assumption that no one would fill it. That apparently the incompetence over at Mart Dock and other places wouldn't be able to take care of it. But only the Einsteins sitting there with their union friends in the Muskegon County
sunk.
Yeah. So anyway,
all blocked off with ships.
Anyway, that's where we are here at Muskegon, and we do have. Scott Hagerstrom from Americans for Prosperity. Scott, are you on the line?
I am on the line. Thank you for having me.
There we go. Okay, good. Well, we'll keep you on a little bit longer if you don't mind, since we got a late start. Scott, can you give a quick history, or at least a quick explanation of who is American for Prosperity? Americans.
Sure. Americans for Prosperity is an organization that's dedicated to limited government and economic liberty. We're a grassroots organization, and we advocate for those issues that will bring prosperity to our country. And it was created back in 2004 in Washington, D.C., and we have a little different philosophy. We actually have state-based chapters, and the Michigan chapter was started in 2007, and I'm a lifelong Michigan resident, raising my family here. And I want to see prosperity come back to Michigan. And we have over 76,000 activists here in Michigan, over 2.1 million nationwide. And, I work in Lansing, but my goal is not to interact with legislators. My goal is to get citizens from around the state to have a say in their government. All too often the lobbyists in Lansing are running things, and that's all legislators hear from. And it's our goal to have citizens, the people that are out there working and raising families and paying the bills, to have a voice. And I go out there and train them. I give them education, and we encourage them to interact with legislators so that we have a prosperous future. And, of course, in Michigan, it's a very important topic because, as you know, we haven't had a lot of prosperity for the past maybe going on 12 years now.
Well, that's true, and I know your interest in making things better here from Michigan. It comes really from the conservative, from the right side of the political spectrum, which is just wonderful. But you don't really hear lots of great ideas from the left, other than give us more money for government programs. But one of the a big one here, which I think is almost nonpartisan, is the building of a big old brand new, not a big old, but a big brand new bridge from Detroit over to Windsor. And there are a lot of things I'd like to go after, but a quick question, and unfortunately I didn't have your phone number with me. Did you get a chance to take a look at the Detroit Free Press articles this morning?
I did. I haven't read them. I skimmed through it, and actually I commented on I'm about finished writing a comment on the article, so if you have any questions, I'm sure I can chime in.
Well, if you read it, almost across the board, it says that the Matty Maroon ads, Mr. Maroon is the gentleman who owns the Ambassador Bridge, that the ads are misleading, and of course the what do they call it, the truth tellers, or the fact checkers are saying that his ads are not accurate, and yet, and interestingly, they brought in 3 experts. They were all university professors. So they've all, none of whom I suspect has ever had a real job, except maybe when they were 13 or 14. But they all concur that the bridge would be free, and the business. We know that the auto companies, all the big companies in the Detroit area, are saying that they would like to have this new bridge. Canada reiterates that it's going to be free. You folks have, you and Americans for Prosperity have a particular point of view, and you've also done some research on it. So why don't you tell us, if I am correct in assuming that you think that the bridge, at least the constitutional amendment that will be voted on come November, that we ought to vote against. We ought to vote for the constitutional amendment. Or maybe I'm wrong. Tell us about it. Let's get somebody who knows what he's talking about speak.
Sure. There's several different issues here floating around. First, I'd like to say I believe this sort of is a partisan issue. When Governor Granholm proposed this, the Republicans in the legislature opposed it, vehemently opposed it. Even Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley wrote op-ed 3 times to the paper opposing this. And all of a sudden, twice, 2005 and then 2010, it could not get through the Republican Senate because the Republicans were adamantly opposed. And so here comes Governor Snyder, and he blindsides everyone by pushing for the new bridge. And he went to the legislature, which is overwhelmingly controlled by the Republicans. He couldn't get anyone even in the House, where they have 64 Republicans, to even introduce a bill to do what he wants to do, let alone take a vote. In the Senate, Senate Majority Leader Richard Ville introduced a bill, and they couldn't even get the bill out of committee. That bill died last October. And when you look at the bill, there's no wonder. It allows the board members to have a conflict of interest. It's huge exemptions to the Freedom of Information Act. It allows the authority to hire union bosses as consultants. It says right in the bill that they can hire unions as consultants and require them to pay prevailing wage on the project, which will increase costs drastically. Well, that bill couldn't even make it out of committee. And so really Governor Snyder has been the only Republican that's really been out there vehemently in support of the bridge.
Well, Scott, let me ask you a question. I think most people, if you could snap your fingers and say, we're going to get a new bridge, Canada wants it, certainly businesses want it. If we got a new bridge and it was totally free, or at least totally paid for by Canada, I think very few people would be against it. Of course, the Maroons would, because they would be having a competitor, and that's a legitimate argument there. But what's the argument from you? Because we have these 3 professors that the Detroit Free Press has brought up. They've got this wonderful graphic talking about how great it is and how free it's going to be.
Well, it's semantics. Do you believe Michigan taxpayers are also federal taxpayers? Because if this project is built, it will require hundreds of millions of dollars in federal money.
Now, where would that come? Where is that? Because I don't see. Other than for the customs, it appears there's going to be no additional federal money involved.
Well, that's nothing to sneeze at. The customs is estimated to cost between $250 and $550 million just for the customs facility, and that's federal money. And Michigan taxpayers are federal taxpayers. So then you have to operate the customs. The other issue is the Michigan Department of Transportation's own study that shows that Ambassador Bridge traffic will go down 70%. Approximately between 15 and 20% traffic will be siphoned off from the Blue Huron, Blue Water Bridge up in Port Huron, and 15 to 20% of the traffic will be siphoned off from the tunnel. Now, those are taxpayer entities, and those barely operate. They don't make a profit. So any traffic you take from them will have to, the state of Michigan taxpayers will have to subsidize those operations.
Let me ask you a question here. The Ambassador Bridge is not taxpayer-owned. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
The tunnel and the Blue Water.
Oh, okay. So you'd be taking away traffic from 2 and putting it in another taxpayer-owned. But in fact, you would also take away a significant amount of traffic from the privately owned Ambassador Bridge.
Right.
Now, the people who own the Ambassador Bridge, given that it's privately owned, they in fact pay taxes. Is that correct?
They do. They pay property taxes. The people they employ pay income taxes. So there's a lot of operations there that are paying taxes into the system.
So those would go down if they lost business, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And you know, we're looking at this, I think, sort of backward.
Okay.
We have a bridge that was built in the 1920s with private funds. It's always been privately owned. In the late 1970s, the current owner bought a controlling interest from Warren Buffett, who was the controlling interest at that time. And they have won awards. They know how to operate bridges. And basically what we want to do is, why don't we emulate what they've done? Why don't we do what we did in the 20s and we go to Congress and seek a franchise, approval for a franchise, and put that franchise out to bid to the highest bidder and let another bridge be built, but through the private sector. You know, instead of shutting down the privately owned bridge, let's emulate what they've done, and let's have more private infrastructure operated in this country. That's what they're doing in other states. Instead, you know, the governor wants to, he says, you know, this is going to be privately built, well, then why do we need so many government entities involved in this process?
I'm not sure what you mean. You say he says it's going to be privately built. I missed that.
Well, they want to have it both ways. They want to create an authority, and then they're going to contract out to a private company to come in and build the bridge and operate it. So he says, depending on what crowd the governor's speaking to, he'll say, well, this is the public bridge. And then if it's a different crowd where he's talking to a more conservative audience, he'll say that it's going to be built by a private company and operated by a private company.
Okay, so some of the benefits, though, I mean, if you're going to build, for instance, the I-75 hookup, if you're going to build the U.S. Customs Plaza, and if you're going to build the bridge, private companies are going to be involved in those construction jobs. Let me ask you this. If Canada is paying for the bridge, they're going to pick who the construction companies are, at least for the bridge, right?
Oh, definitely. They're paying the bill. They're going to have to say in who the entities are that are coming in and building and operating the bridge, most definitely.
And of course, it's very likely, given the politics involved in $1 billion on a bridge, that it's going to be not American companies. Since they're paying for it, it'll be companies that are headquartered in Canada, I would imagine, right?
Correct. One other point is Randy Richardville, who introduced the bill in the Senate last year, after the bill was defeated, went on WJR and admitted that there's no way to guarantee that Michigan taxpayers won't get the bill, because unless we have a constitutional amendment, future legislatures may put money into this project. There's no controlling them. And that's exactly what happened with the Mackinac Bridge. They said that wouldn't cost a nickel, and years later the legislature had to go in and bail it out.
That's news to me. Tell me a little more about that.
Well, when that was proposed, the governor at that time said it wouldn't cost a nickel, and the tolls would pay for it. And it turned out that the tolls didn't cover it, so the legislature had to appropriate money to bail it out. In fact, if you look at the 1963 Constitution, there's a provision in there that says with a supermajority vote of the legislature that they can assume the Mackinac Bridge Authority debt, and that's exactly what they did.
How long after the bridge was built did this assumption of debt happen?
Well, it was 1963 when they put that provision in the state constitution. I don't remember the exact year that it was built, but
okay.
it was a few years.
But if they want to stick the taxpayers with any bill, there's always a way to do it. Well, there's another issue that comes up to me, and I'm looking at this. I would suggest that anybody who's interested in this issue take a look at the Detroit Free Press. There are links on their front page of their website, and do view it with the idea that it does appear to have a bias in terms of the way it's put together. But one thing I noticed that it does not mention at all, and this had been the issue that was very important to Senator Hansen when we spoke with him, who was our state senator out here, and there is going to be it's in negotiations, I would imagine, but something that's called community benefits. And community benefits are essentially a slush fund that is given to some communities when eminent domain is utilized to come into a town and put a highway in or whatever. And the initial intent was to compensate people. If they're going to put a highway in and they're going to take your house down, well, I have to pay you for the house. But apparently in some of these negotiations for community benefits, there have been experts, saying, well, wait a minute, there are emotional losses. This is going to affect a minority neighborhood more so than a white neighborhood, so there's civil rights issues, and there's any number of other things that are going to be brought up. So in other words, with all of these costs that the Free Press outlines in very decimal percentages, they don't make any mention of this cost for community benefits, which I understand, if there are to be any, are going to be borne by of the United States, and I would imagine by Michigan taxpayers. Can you extrapolate on that a little bit?
Certainly. The Chair of Appropriations, Senator Kahn, came out and said that the cost of community benefits could run as high as $200 million. They're typically up to 10% of the cost of a project. And the governor has promised that there will be community benefits paid. And they sort of play a shell game. They say, well, the company that's coming in to build it will pay the community benefits. Well, that increases the cost of the project. So the bottom line is there will be community benefits if this project goes forward. And it is a slush fund. I have high praise for Senator Hansen for standing up, he stood up against the governor of his own party, and that's what he's supposed to do, to represent. He truly was representative of the people in his district and asking these hard questions. And let's look at the homes in that area. Let me give you an example of where community benefits would come in. There's homes in that neighborhood for sale between $3,000 and $5,000. And so under the state constitution, when eminent domain is used by the state of Michigan to take those homes to build this project, they can get no more than 125% value of their home. You know, obviously, if you buy a home for a few $1,000s, that's not enough money to move into another new home. And so that's where community benefits will come in, so that these people can move and buy another home. And
well, that makes sense, though. That does make sense. I think. I mean, we don't want to be going in, using eminent domain and taking people out of their homes. That's where we get the $200 million?
Well, that's part of it. But the question is, are you going to give them the 125% of their cost of their home, or are you going to move them into a $100,000 new home?
Oh.
Are you going to build? What are you? That's going to be right next to a middle school. They're talking about putting in new facilities for the middle school. You know, these things are all nice. I want people to live in a nice home. I want people to have a nice neighborhood. But you got to realize that's redistribution of wealth. You have to take that from somewhere else in the economy, from other people, from other taxpayers, to fund that.
Let me go back on this, because you said something earlier again, and I would like to just hopefully I'm correctly stating Senator Hansen's point of view here. He's not anti-bridge. He's anti-voting for a bridge as long as the multi-hundreds of millions of dollars questions are not answered. I think he's probably like I am, in that if the bridge was totally free, he would be for it. But you said something earlier that the community benefits might be in the neighborhood of $200 million, but in fact, the bridge builder would have to assume those costs. Now, according to the Detroit Free Press's graphic, it's about $950 million is what the cost of the bridge is. Do you know offhand, is that cost including the community benefits? Number two, would it be additional to the community benefits? And if in fact it is additional to, would Canada pick those benefits up? Has that question been resolved?
No, none of those questions have been resolved. In fact, there's a lot of figures flying around out there. The $950 million is actually just for the bridge. That doesn't include any of the ancillary projects, the landing on the American side, the connectors I-75, the Customs Plaza. That does not include community benefits. There's a lot of unknown questions, and in fact, when you look at the agreement between the U.S. and Canada, or between Michigan and Canada, it's pretty much a PR document, and its enforceability is really in question.
What about the Canadian side, though? Would the Canadian side have the same?
Well, I'm looking at this graphic. Like I say, it's a really great graphic, at least for those who like the bill. But according to the graphic, there are 5 major issues. The Windsor connection picked up by Canada. The Canadians' customs picked up by Canada. The bridge, according to this, would be picked up by Canada but paid for by tolls, which makes perfect sense. Okay. Then the Customs Plaza, where Canada would pick up part of it, but the United States would pick up about $263 million. And then the I-75 hookup, where they say Canada has stepped in and accepted the cost. Now, that, you know what kind of gets my antenna tweaking here is it doesn't say, as it does on others, who pays Canada. It says Canada stepped in and accepted the cost. That seems like it's likely in the current verbiage of whatever this agreement is a little fuzzy there. Am I right in that reading?
You're correct in that reading, yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, look, so it would seem to me that, by the way, there's another wonderful graphic that you have on your Americans for Prosperity page, which shows the number of users that are going across the various bridges, and it truly is down significantly. Scott, can we hold you over from the break and come on back?
Oh, sure, that would be great.
Looking forward to it. We'll take a break, and we will be back at Muskegon's Eye on Muskegon.
You've probably heard that money... Today's music stars learned from the legends. You can go right to the source with the Roots of Country channel. Hear the icons of country music nonstop. Merle. Hank. Tammy. Willie. I can't wait to get on the road again.
George.
He stopped loving her today.
Johnny.
I walk the line.
The technology changes, but the music is timeless. Hear Roots of Country on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
Car number 7 is pulling into the pit.
What's my winning diabetes plan?
Start taking action now for diabetes.
Medications.
Got them. And my insulin supplies.
Exercise.
Most days.
Blood sugar level on target.
Diet. Eating healthy.
A1C under control.
Managing diabetes, including controlling blood sugar, is a team effort that requires a plan that's right for you. For more information, visit standfordiabetes.org.
A public service of TCOYD made possible with support from Sanofi Aventis, U.S.
Cold steel, rough concrete, tough plastic, synthetics. Today's world is enough to make us lose our real sense of touch and feel hundreds of miles away from nature. Luckily, that's not the case. There are places all around where you can get in touch with nature. At the National Wildlife Refuges. Here you can experience the warm, inviting touch of nature at every turn. Feel the smooth, gentle bark of a white birch tree on your fingertips. Walk barefoot on the smooth, water-worn river stones. Feel the soft moss lining a towering wall of limestone. When you feel these things, you're feeling the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
Every pocket of your clothes, those dadgummers are interested in inserting their hands. I imagine they probably, those who are dexterous with their toes would probably stick their feet in your pockets, too, if they could get more of your money. These days with electronic transfers, though, they're far more efficient than simply coming to your house and going into your pants. But we have with us at EyeOnMuskegon.
What?
Yeah. Moving right along. We are back at EyeOnMuskegon, and we're talking with Americans for Prosperity's Scott Hagerstrom, and we are talking about the bridge. And if I could, I would agree with you, Scott, that there are still very significant questions about the bridge, and I'd like to come back to it. But could you just clarify what it is that we in Michigan will be voting on come November, because there is a constitutional amendment that you folks, or not you folks, but the folks that support the bridge have put on the ballot. There are going to be 6 total initiatives, I guess you'd call them. And can you explain what it is we're voting and how we might vote if we were for or against this bridge?
Sure. Really, the ballot question is completely different. Whether you support or oppose the bridge, you may support the ballot initiative. All the ballot initiative says is that should the people decide whether a bridge gets built? We've heard a lot of arguments from the governor, whether it be Governor Granholm or now Governor Snyder, and we've heard a lot of arguments from the bridge company, and we've heard a lot of chatter through the media on this issue. And sometimes it is hard to decide who's right, who's wrong, who's lying, who's telling the truth. And so all this says is that if they want to build a new international bridge, a very significant project, they'll have to come to the people for approval. And so what we're finding is even people that support the bridge support this because they want to have a voice on whether a bridge gets built. So a yes vote says you want the people to decide whether a bridge gets built. A no vote says you're okay with the governor going around the legislature and just unilaterally deciding to build a multi-billion-dollar project.
Well, you know, what I find interesting is that we do have a system where the people do elect representatives to do the tough work, to read the details and the fine print, and then ultimately vote, hopefully, with input from their constituents. And in fact, the votes have been done. There have been more than one. And the votes have been, no, we don't want to go along with whatever this particular agreement is. It's not anti-bridge, but it's anti this particular agreement. And that being the case, having the individual voters vote on it seems to me to be a really benign kind of a thing. But in fact, certainly the Democrats the Democrat Party, as we know, the education establishment seems to be against citizen input here, and many others. They do not want the citizens to have a say in this, even though their representatives have already had a say, and now that's been yanked away from them. What does that say about the people who are supporting this initiative? Well, actually, it's a constitutional amendment, right?
It is a constitutional amendment, and the fact is, the Michigan Constitution in 1963 gave the citizens the right to collect signatures and put amendments before the people of Michigan. So we do have a representative government, and the governor basically ignored your elected representatives, and in sort of a bullheaded way is just plowing forward and spending a lot of time and energy on this issue. And, that is interesting that a lot of groups, I don't see where we can go wrong in asking the people. I may not always agree with what the people say, but the power of this country, the power of the people in the state is vested first in the people. And to let them have a say is, I think, the right thing to do.
Well, one of the things that has been brought up also is that this doesn't even matter because the governor has the power and the authority to go ahead with this agreement. And even if this constitutional amendment is passed, it'll be a never mind because they're already going ahead, and this will not be able to supersede the governor's power.
That's an interesting legal question, and that's what the governor's office continues to say, but that remains to be seen. On one hand, they're saying that this doesn't matter, but then on the other hand, they said that Lieutenant Governor Talley would be spending most of his time this fall, almost every day, in fact, out there campaigning against this amendment. So on one hand, they're saying it won't matter, but then on the other hand, they're spending a lot of time and energy trying to defeat it. So their actions and their words really don't match up.
Okay, so if this did pass, then we're going to see probably a large amount of legal battle going on. Who knows? Maybe all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. So this, no matter what happens with this the referendum, it isn't over till it's over, right?
That's a very good point. Yeah, it will be something that continues whether it passes or doesn't pass. I guess the basic question I believe citizens need to ask themselves is, do they believe they should have a say, a vote on whether an international bridge is built, a piece of multi-billion-dollar infrastructure?
Tracy had a comment earlier about some of the businesses in Canada that might be severely impacted by this,
like cheetahs and some of the other. Are they? Could we possibly get those girls to work at customs? the little frisking.
There's other ballot issues too on the ballot, and one that's particularly important to Michigan is Proposal 5, which would require a 2/3 majority in the legislature to raise taxes. And that's something that Americans for Prosperity is 100% behind. 15 other states have a supermajority requirements. And simply it just says if you believe it should be harder for legislators to take your hard-earned money, then you would support Proposal 5.
And explain that a little bit more. It's a supermajority, 2/3 majority in the elected state House and state Senate?
It is, and we actually, what surprises people, we already have this provision several times in the Constitution. I mentioned earlier with the Mackinac Bridge Authority that it requires a supermajority in that. And part of Proposal A, it requires a supermajority of the legislature if they want to raise our state education property taxes. It requires a supermajority to give bills immediate effect. It requires a supermajority to put questions before the citizens' constitutional changes. It requires a supermajority if they want to declare an emergency to bypass heavily provisions. So this is something well established in the Michigan Constitution. It's something 15 other states have. And it also says if the legislature can't get a supermajority to raise taxes, then they simply just go to the people and ask the people's permission. Now, a lot of people say, well, this is radical. It's going to hurt Michigan. It's not radical. It doesn't lower one tax. All it says is the legislature wants to take more of your money then they need a supermajority. Or they just simply ask the people that are going to be paying the bill, the voters, whether they want to pay higher taxes. And the governor and the Michigan Chamber of Commerce are opposed to this, as are many other Lansing organizations that feed off of taxpayer dollars.
Why would the Chamber of Commerce be against this?
The Chamber and the governor want a gas tax increase. We already have the fifth highest gas tax on gasoline in the country, and they want to raise tax. They want to raise the tax on gasoline and assess new fees that will come to about $1.4 billion, and it will give Michigan immediately the second highest tax on gasoline and lead. And what this legislation will do, it will put automatic increases in the gas tax in the future. So eventually, Michigan will have the highest tax on gasoline in the country.
And wow! Now I had not heard that put together here. So really, it's a one issue item, at least the one issue that's coming up the closest in the future. But again, why would the Michigan Chamber of Commerce be for this?
For a gas tax increase?
Yeah.
They believe we need to put more money into roads, and that the way to do that is to take more money from the public. Now, AFP believes we need to put more money into roads, but we differ on where that money should come from. We believe roads are important, and there need to be some reforms in the way the current money is spent, but additional resources probably will be needed. However, we believe government already collects enough of our money. It's up to our well-paid legislators and our governor to make priorities. And the legislature's the budget starting October 1st is going to be $1.6 billion higher than the 2012 budget. So there is money there. They're collecting additional revenues. They just need to make priorities and put the money where they believe it should go. And if they believe roads should be a priority, they need to take current tax dollars and put those into roads and to find efficiencies and cut other areas of government.
Or they could get a supermajority, or they could bring it to the people again for a vote and say, wait a minute, if you want the roads to go, let's bump up your sales tax. Well, I didn't realize that, and I appreciate we're running a little bit out of time here, but you guys keep up the good work. Keep us informed. I would like to see, frankly, I'd like to see a little more discussion about expanding the customs area at the Blue Water Bridge. I've never been over the Ambassador Bridge myself, but the Blue Water Bridge is a huge backup coming into the United States. So we could probably quintuple the amount of traffic on that bridge simply by expanding the customs side, at least on the American side.
The question.
Studies have said that's also the issue at the Ambassador Bridge, that it's not really about the lane traffic, it's about customs.
Yeah.
Here's a customs tip. If they ever ask you, do you have any guns, don't say, what do you need? It slows things down considerably.
I would imagine.
The question I had was about Canada, though. What does Canada think of all this? I mean, was Canada's 100% for this? Do they have any?
Oh, Is there any blowback from the Canadians who are going to be, pegging out it looks like almost $2 billion.
Yeah. What do they say?
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting group of individuals because the Canadian version of the Huffington Post actually came out with a scathing article just recently on the Canadian government for throwing so many tax dollars at this project and assuming so much. So the Canadian government, as of now, is fully behind this project, and they were quoted on the 2 years ago as saying that it will not cost Canadian taxpayers one dime.
So no one's paying for this.
The question is who's paying for it.
It's great.
It's free to everybody.
Yeah. Maybe it's in the stash. The president has got this legendary stash. Perhaps that's it. Well, Scott, hey, thank you very, very much. Keep up the good work. Keep us informed. Maybe we will get a chance to talk to you before the election, certainly after the election. So have a great Sunday, and we will be back with Eye on Muskegon.
Great. Thank you.
If you love food and your heart, go grocery shopping with me, Mon, short for monounsaturated fat.
And me, polyunsaturated.
We're the Better Fat Sisters. Over here in the cooking oil aisle, choose canola, olive, and other vegetable oils. Liquids are better for your heart than solid fats.
You'll also find us in fresh foods like avocados, nuts, and fish.
Before you put any baked goods, packaged, and prepared foods in your cart, read the labels.
Avoid our bad fats brothers, saturated and trans. They love to clog your arteries.
We're heart healthier, but let's face it, we're fats.
We all have the same 9 calories per gram, so watch your portions.
And thanks for shopping with us.
The Better Fat Sisters. Be kinder to your heart. Learn more and get recipes at heart.org/facethefats. Nationally sponsored by Canola Info.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can teach your children.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
I knew I had a problem.
I tried counting calories, eating and eating.
Nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Neo, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
This is Mike McCready, Pearl Jam's lead guitarist. Join me and help transform the lives of the 1.4 million Americans living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Sign up today for one of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's Take Steps walks at cctakesteps.org.
Army Specialist Andrew Pike was paralyzed by a sniper while serving in Iraq. Paralyzed Veterans of America helped Andy get the auto, housing, and vocational benefits he earned. You can help our paralyzed veterans. Visit
and other questions on Gun Talk. Gun Talk is the only show out there about gun rights, collecting, personal defense, sport, and recreational shooting. And of course, we never forget about safety on Gun Talk.
It's Gun Talk, Sunday afternoons at 3 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
Dadgum government. Well, they get up earlier than we do generally, but we do get up early on Sunday mornings at EyeOnMuskegon, and we're going to try to give you some information and help you get the tools. And as we just heard from that ad, maybe you need a gun every once in a while. And I saw that, I think it was in someplace in the United States.
Everyone's going to have one of those. We're going to be the Wild West soon anyway.
Apparently the police just killed a double amputee, a gentleman sitting in his wheelchair. That might have been in D.C., but who knows? Perhaps he was locked and loaded and deserved what he got. But nonetheless, one person off of Medicare, reducing the ultimate debt to the younger generations. So some people will be happy with that.
So the bridge thing, we really don't know about the Canadians, what they're saying. They're just kind of saying, hey, it's going to be a good thing, eh?
You know,
it doesn't cost anybody anything.
It's interesting. I suspect that it's not a big issue to most of the Canadian citizenry. Certainly, as Tracy so insightfully suggested, that there are very specific companies within Windsor that might be interested. And I like your idea. Certainly, if you're going to be waiting in a long line on a bridge or a tunnel to get through customs, if you could take some of these young ladies who've obviously interested in First Lady Obama's fitness regimes, get some of them helping out with
what happened to the ladies from Hooters over here in Muskegon? We could send them over there too.
And
no,
since we don't have our Hooters any longer, there's an opportunity for them to get a job in the Detroit area where they do need jobs. So,
well, I don't know if it's been discussed as a possible. If you want to make this more money for Michigan, can't they just make the bridge one way? It would cut construction costs in half.
All right, there you go.
You only need one lane and just have the people Canadians come over, they can't get back.
That's been the way the state will be, and once we get to be, we move up from number 5 to number 1 in terms of the most expensive gasoline in the country. That might be the idea. So we could save a couple $2 billion. Certainly, save the Canadians a couple $2 billion that they could use.
We'll have to save
come over
money
here
to buy the Volt. Yeah, if this happens, because I tell you what, we'll have to all buy the Volt.
Did you hear? Did you hear
this isn't over
till shut down the Cobb plant?
Yeah.
Well, electricity costs more.
Right.
Well, it is a little frightening. Did you hear
this isn't over till Aretha Franklin sings?
Well, it isn't going to be over until, yes, without any question, it's not over until the judges, and that's why these Supreme Court judge races are now becoming more and more important. And I didn't realize that one of the reasons behind this push for the against the supermajority to raise taxes was because we've got coming right down our neck this increase on sales taxes and gasoline taxes. So, folks, if you like higher taxes, there's certainly opportunity out there to stay home, don't vote come November, and
start saving for the Volt.
And start saving for the Volt, which...
Of course, like you say, won't be able to afford that because the electricity will be gone, too. So.
Well, actually, you know, if you go to places like Muskegon County building where they have the free plug-ins, which were, my understanding is between $10,000 and $20,000 per plug-in.
And the one at Pure Marquette.
And they got a couple at Pure Marquette, and they're all over. So, yeah, let's face it, people are...
I tried to plug my iPod in at Pure Marquette, and...
Well,
blew it up,
you'd probably get arrested. Hey, on the good news thing, though, never let it be said that the Michigan State legislature is really looking out for you. And they there's a bill that's just worked its way through the Senate last month, and pretty soon. In Michigan, if you win one of these big lotteries, your name doesn't have to be public, which I think is actually a good idea. But the cool thing about that is, or actually the downside of it is, if we had that, if there was already law, this gentleman, Donald Lawson, you know Donald? The 55-year-old father of two and self-described hillbilly from Lapeer, who just won $337 million in the most recent mega lottery. The poor fella is now advertising on Facebook or Craigslist or someplace, at least on the internet, for a girlfriend.
I'm thinking about it.
And well, you know what?
$7 million.
I think that if in fact you had the 330, it'd be a little different. This poor guy, he seems like a very nice and certainly a very naive guy. It was Powerball that he won, but here's the way one of the media. Well, apparently this is his self-described deal at Match.com. Quote: "Tall Mexican who loves women to have a good time with me, anything they want, I'm up for it, so try me. You never know what we can do. What else? I like to please a woman any way she wants, and that's all that matters. What she wants, she gets."
That's plagiarism. He took that right off Oscars.
Yeah, that was right off my.
Well,
what I said. Yeah.
That's certainly what I whisper to Honey Bunch quite often. It really is very effective.
Look at Nicole Smith. I mean, look at that eggplant she married. I mean, it's money.
Yeah, and so thankfully we do have now the government stepping up and protecting these folks from themselves.
Because think of all the calls you get and stuff. I mean, I have no problem with that.
Well, there is that song, "Call Me Maybe," which is a wonderful little tune.
Wait a minute, that's the song.
Yeah.
That's the song from the video, the Michigan video.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, see,
wow.
Since we got 1,000 people listening to this show, I think we should
have households, not people.
Well, there you
That's
go.
Households.
You should have Tracy bring his book in here for a book signing after the show.
Oh, golly, yes. I wanted to talk about that. Tracy, you do have a new book out, and let's talk about that.
All 1,000 of you, come over here. I'll sign your book for you.
Well, I can't because it's just an ebook right now.
Well, you can do it.
I can sign on any other parts that you want, but I can't.
Well, how do we get tell us about the book
Tracy,
and how do people get it?
It's on Amazon.com. It's on BarnesandNoble.com, and if you want to download it to your phone or your computer or anywhere else, it's on FastPencil.com.
Oh, very
so those
groovy.
are your three shots at getting this book.
All right, but one more time, if you're on Amazon, let's say,
right,
what do you Google? Just Tracy Lorenz.
Tracy Lorenz. All you gotta do.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah. Hey, what kind of response have you gotten from it?
So far, it's going very well because it's only $4, $3.99.
Wow.
Okay.
I can afford that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good. And what's in it? Why would I pay my $3.99?
These are all columns that never appeared in the Chronicle, and they are unedited. So it's as I walked around town, there were so many people who would mention that they missed my fabulous column and stuff, and I would tell them, but it's still out there. It's just not in the Chronicles and other papers around West Michigan. And
because you still are now you are a syndicated columnist, among other things. You run your businesses, but you are a syndicated columnist in the
West
Examiner
Michigan area.
Oh, great!
Examiner, amongst other, locally the Examiner, and I don't know how far the listening area is, so I'll just say the Examiner, which is owned by Detroit Legal News.
And you can pick that up any place.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I think that's great. That's another entrepreneur dealing with the internet, getting your product out through the world. Anybody can pick it up any place. I think that's really neat.
Huge in Denmark.
Hey, I want to. Speaking of Denmark,
I was always big in France, but
there's something smelly and something smells in Denmark. This is an awful thing that we know about. Of course, the hideous assassination of our ambassador in Libya, which is the first ambassador killed since Jimmy Carter was in charge of our foreign policy, and I think it's not a surprise that the next time that happened, it was under the foreign policy of Barack Obama. But one thing that was absolutely, totally left out of the news media, and you can be sure that if a Republican, certainly if President Romney was in charge, you'd know about it. But 8 irreplaceable Harrier aircraft at a cost of almost $200 million were destroyed in an attack just this past week. This was in Afghanistan. You may have heard of the attack, and of course a lieutenant colonel who was the squadron leader was killed. But $200 million, by the way, this is the worst.
Is that each or is that total?
No, they're about $30 to $35 million each.
Wow. I paid $42 for mine.
And of course this is just, by the way, just the aircraft. I mean, there was a very significant attack which we were not prepared for. It killed a variety of Americans, and it also, of course, cost us these Harriers, which are no longer in production. But this is the worst air power loss in the United States since Vietnam.
And what country was this in?
This was I believe it was in Afghanistan.
Kind of ironic that it's Harrier.
Well, you know, I think that I don't want to make fun of this because this is an awful situation. Nobody in the country knows anything about this because the American media absolutely buried it.
I never heard of it.
And of course now we have not only have we lost the planes and we've lost the men. Now they're talk. Universally, internationally, that we need to
lose all the planes. Though I'd say I didn't hear it either.
Well, no, I'm not sure how many they've got remaining. It was most of the planes there, and the worst thing about
it was,
on
the ground. Then they were shot on the ground.
They were attacked using some type of artillery.
Okay,
but no, it wasn't just artillery. They actually a significant number of terrorists were able to get over the fence.
Bombs under the wings or something like that.
And they had RPGs and things of that sort.
Oh, okay.
But these were also the most recent variant. So in other words, these are the best planes that they had. So I don't want to make a big deal about it in the sense that war is awful. We're losing people all the time. But we know that every single night. Certainly when George Bush was president, we had a recounting of the number of dead and everything else. We're not seeing that from the media. It doesn't seem like it matters any longer.
I saw last night that there's been 2,000 soldiers so far killed in Afghanistan. And during the same period of time, there's been 5,000 people murdered in Chicago.
Well, it's a terrible situation, and we're running out of time here. Thanks to Oscar and Tracy and the good folks, Scott Hagerstrom at AFP.
Keep up the good work.
Well, we're going to try to keep you informed. Lots of stuff happening. We're got this big county commission meeting coming up on Thursday. I'll be at Carmen's. Please, if you're interested in talking about anything politically wise, Carmen's not Tuesday this week, but Thursday from 2 to about 3:15. I'll be there. And, of course, we're on TV 38. We are getting to the folks here in Muskegon. We're getting the word out. We're going to continue to do it next week. EyeOnMuskegon will be back. We're going to continue our quest. Hey, guys, we want to expose what the power people in town do not want you to know. I hope you have all just a great week in our little piece of heaven. Next week, we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
I knew I had a problem.
Eating and eating.
I felt so alone.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. Start living the life you deserve. Find us on the web at oa.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Lawrence Fishburne, and I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
We've got all these credit card bills. We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Speak with a counselor at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
OD HD2 Muskegon.